Welcome back to T. Watts and TR on the YouTube and podcast homes for BamaOnline.com. Travis Reier, senior analyst for BOL, alongside BOL site publisher Tim Watts. Tim, we've got a lot to get into. We've got some Tennessee, Alabama talk following the Crimson Tide's 34-20 win over the Vols. But I was thinking maybe, we do second watch now on YouTube. I was wondering maybe we'll turn this into a Saints Jags second watch. You want to go back over that one, Tim, after last Thursday night, maybe?
I'm over the Saints.
I am done?
over. And I realized I got more NFL friends than I thought this year because Steve Wiltfong, our good recruiting friend, woke me up going, "Hey, Saints and the Colts." I was like, "Damn it. I just went through this with Travis and now I'm here with Stevie." So I'm actually rooting against the Saints. They're going to need a good draft pick somewhere. They need a quarterback. So team's gotten old, just not a fun team.
Derek Carr, man, he's not your guy. And Derek was pretty public with the outburst during that game last week. Wasn't happy with a couple of his receivers. The frustration.
That's usually the old distraction. You know what I mean? That's usually the old distraction. I don't trust any quarterback who runs like he's on Baywatch. All right. If you got your thumbs out and you're doing that run, no thank you.
That's not the guy for New Orleans.
No, sir. No, thank you.
It's not Bobby Hebert for sure.
No,
when I think about New Orleans quarterback. Speaking of quarterbacks, Jalen Milroe feeling pretty good about himself going into this bye week, Tim. What a performance from this Alabama team in the second half. Let me ask you this. What was your mindset there going into halftime after the Milroe interception and Tennessee goes the length of the field to make it a 20-7 game? What was the level of confidence for Tim Watts at that point?
I couldn't understand what was happening offensively in the first half. I knew that Josh Heupel's, he's a great offensive coach. He's going to call a great game, and those guys are going to script the first 20 plays, and they're trouble. That's the thing with those guys. So them getting to a quick start didn't bother me, but Alabama 3 and out, 4 and out, just back-to-back possessions where they couldn't get anything going. That was concerning. But, yeah, the interception itself didn't bother me. It's kind of a tip play thrown in the back of the end zone. Really tough catch for Burton. He could have made a fantastic catch there, but certainly not an average catch. But then, marching straight down the field, kind of looked at him. I just wanted to see if they could set in because I felt like the defense sort of played with its back against the wall a lot in the first half. I mean, that one drive, they had 2 good drives in that half, but they really were good in the red zone. The crowd was fantastic. I just wanted to see the offense get going. I mean, I saw some of the same things I think other people did, people that were, opportunities, kind of boring. It's kind of boring play call, right? I mean, there wasn't didn't seem like anything was really creative there. So I don't know if I have pessimism or optimism in these games anymore. I just know that at 60 minutes is when I'm going to judge how this team played, because if I do it minute by minute, quarter by quarter, play by play, it's going to drive me bananas.
Yeah, I think that when you look at the way that team played in the final 30 minutes, that's the team we expected to see at this point in the season, right? The run game doing some good things. Milroe able to incorporate some things not only through the air, but also moving him by design, not just as a runner either. I thought there was some good stuff as far as off-zone read action, get him outside, give him some easy throws to C.J. Dupree, Isaiah Bond. We saw some jet sweep incorporation, Kendrick Law getting some touches that way. You're right. I think the diversity was good to see. Defensively, what that side of the ball can be. And we saw it again in the second half. So going into this bye week, right? I mean, get healthy, get rejuvenated, and get ready, because LSU is bringing a high-profile, prolific offense to Tuscaloosa in a couple Saturdays.
Yeah, I think, when you look at it realistically, Tennessee's offense played really well. If you look at it statistically, Milton was at his best, perhaps he's been all year. I think he had one of his best games. I think the play calling was really good. They made plays. So Alabama's been tested from that regard. Obviously, LSU's a little bit of a different animal. They're going to pass. I mean, obviously, I think I saw that the quarterback has 25 touchdowns this year. And I will say they're going to, like that game against the Forces this week, they're going to score. I did not think they were going to just beat them down.
They didn't take any take any pity on
They
the on
absolutely
West
beat him
Point, did
down.
they?
So they're keeping that offense hot. So those statistics are really going to be high up there, I think. But yeah, I've watched them enough to know they're a good football team. Their defense is susceptible, although it's playing better. It hadn't played a lot of them, a lot of good opponents. But I don't think you could be more excited for this game to shape up, because after week 2, we weren't expecting much hype around this, I don't think, nationally. You had LSU with the loss, you had Alabama with the loss. LSU with 2 losses, but they've struggled several times. Which they had some couple tough wins. Bama struggled in a few games, had a couple tough wins. So I don't think you were expecting the hype that's probably coming with this game. 2 weeks. I mean, 2 weeks into the season.
Man, when you think about Alabama and LSU too, and not to go too far down that rabbit hole because we got plenty of time, but just from an NFL prospects perspective, that stuff that you like, I know I'm interested in it as well. And you think about Malik Neighbors and those wide receivers in general, Jaden Daniels, in terms of how does he translate to the NFL at the quarterback position? Alabama with Kool-Aid, with Dallas Turner, Chris Braswell probably surging in the eyes of NFL people.
Yeah,
Certainly JC Latham, right? I mean, it's going to be another one of those feasts for
yeah.
NFL scouts.
Yeah, it won't be 2019, but nothing is ever going to be 2019. Like
That was,
nothing. I see
yeah.
NFL games with not half the talent that was in that 2019 game as far as draft pick goes. Yeah, Brian Thomas, he's a problem. You got Neighbors, you got Thomas, you got Alabama secondary. There's some good matchups there. I think it's still going to come down to, if you keep them from being successful on the ground, having success. Obviously, it goes with keeping the quarterback in the pocket, which is really hard. That guy's a shifty runner. Tough to takes a lot of hits. I mean, was it the Ole Miss game where they basically sent him for a?
Yeah.
I mean, he sent him for a cartwheel. I mean, like it was a flush hit, looked like a car hitting a wall.
It's like he's Gumby, like he's made
Yeah,
out of rubber or
dude
something.
just
He
jumped back
bounces
up.
back. Yeah.
I fell on the floor and held my back for 10 minutes, and I looked up. He just ran back out there the next play. So definitely a tough guy. Really good matchup. I'm excited for it. This season's been kind of exciting for me because every game's not a given, and I know it's frustrating at times, but there's been a lot of rewarding moments. So carrying it out, you got Tennessee behind you, you've got LSU coming up, you got at Kentucky, and you got at Auburn. So you still got some fun football left.
Now, we were asked a couple of weeks ago about ranking the remaining opponents for this Alabama team. And I know at the time you still thought the trip to Auburn would be at the top of that list after the last couple of performances by the Tigers, the loss at LSU, then a 7-point loss Saturday night at home to Ole Miss. Has that changed for you any, or are you still thinking maybe that boogeyman,
I'm not
was toward
worried. I
Halloween
think
mode?
Alabama would be the favorite in Auburn. I just think it's going to be the toughest week because you got in-state. I think I'm factoring in us as much as anything. I mean, the media is going to have to deal with the surge. Obviously, Hugh Freeze is now recruiting at a different level than Harsin did, which wasn't very hard. He wasn't very good, but Alabama and Auburn are battling over kids. So I was talking about the whole mental aspect of playing that game, the voodoo that goes on down there. You know what I mean? I say that respectively. LSU's obviously a much better, tougher team to play, but I've never really said, "Heck yeah, they're going to Auburn. This will be great." It's never been a Disney
You
World
don't
weekend.
take your kids to Auburn,
Nah,
right? If you're an Alabama fan, if you have young kids,
yeah,
because that one's not
it's not
about
Disney
fun.
World. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
there's
no
no
Disney.
fast passes
Yeah,
down there. Yeah, there's no Space Mountain or
if there are,
It's
you
a
won't
Small
like the
World.
pass. I'll tell
Yeah.
you that. If there's a fast pass, you won't like the pass.
Well, if it was Disney, we know our guy Charlie Potter would be there on Monday.
Absolutely.
I mean, all
Just
week,
likes a little
Charlie Potter.
Disney.
He
Hey, I
does.
love it. I mean, I lived in Orlando, had the worst. You know why I hated Disney and Epcot? I realized my mom only took me in the summer. I
Ooh,
lived there year round, and I'm going at summer and at Christmas, and
7,000 degrees and everybody's there.
couldn't check me out of school on a Tuesday. You know what I mean? Tuesday in February. But I love Disney too, so not the
Who
level
doesn't?
Mr. Potter does.
And the mouse, he loves our wallets and our plastic. He loves
Expensive,
that.
isn't he?
He
Yeah, expensive.
really is. He makes it easy. He makes it so easy to spend that money. But we
Yeah.
talk about this Alabama team going into the bye week, and from a health perspective, that's everything because we saw, kind of a continuation of the injuries. But the depth of this team continues to show up, Tim. We talk a lot about frontline guys, NFL prospects, but some unsung heroes from recent games. I think guys like Tim Smith come to mind. Look, you see younger players continuing to emerge, like Jihad Campbell did in the game last Saturday against Tennessee. But
Yeah.
adding Tresman Marshall, a veteran from the transfer portal, really the portal hits on defense have shown up. Jalen Key, Trey
Yeah.
Amos stepping in there for Terrion Arnold against
Huge.
Tennessee,
Huge.
and
Yeah.
then Marshall obviously out, but talk about some of those guys for you, the guys that maybe fly under the radar a little bit, could be in all three phases.
No, I agree. Alabama's had good success in the portal. We've talked about with recruiting. They're not like in this class. They're not necessarily going to just go after recruiting a high school a high school guy to be incoming freshman just to get a guy. When you can go to the portal, and they've had good success there. But yeah, all those guys step up. The depth, as you mentioned, is huge. Obviously, Jihad Campbell's a talented football player, but being behind Trez has had to pay off. Trez was under Kirby Smart for a few years, so definitely came in with some experience at that level. The secondary guys, you already had talented guys, but not a lot of depth behind them. Even as good as Caleb Downs is, you got a true freshman coming in to start, but having those guys to be there in the backup, like you said, Amos stepping up in a big moment with Terrion going down. That's a scary situation. You lose a starting cornerback against that type of offense, and a quarterback who's actually playing really well. So did a good job, but I don't think you can undersell. I don't think you can oversell the importance that the portal guys added, especially depth wise. I'm still waiting for CJ to get involved. I know they had a nice little tight end screen. I thought had a chance to be a big play, but it was just blown up. Both ends just absolutely crushed.
Yeah.
That little screen pass they had for him. But I think that was set up not kind of like a little Travis Kelce play,
Mm-hmm.
I think he had a chance to rumble and, get a couple blocks and make a big play, but still hoping to see more of him.
Yeah, he had a nice grab on the underneath route where they moved Jalen to the corner off of zone read action, took a pretty awkward hit there to his knees and was able to bounce up from that. So that was good to see. But you talk about the offensive side of the ball and unsung heroes, Jaden Roberts at that right guard
Yeah.
position. Since he's been plugged in there,
How about that?
it's three
Yep.
games now that we've seen him, and he went out in the game Saturday, came back, which tells you, if it's even close in a situation like that, Tim, usually if a guy goes out, they'll just ride with the next guy and probably ride with him for the continuation of the game. But when Jaden was ready to come back in, he was immediately back on
Yeah.
the field. That tells me he's pretty much entrenched as that starter at right guard, and deservedly so.
I also think he's ultra competitive, though. I think that when he got, when you don't start, you come through high school, you start 4 years, a guy like Jaden probably did. Then you sit that bench. When you get a shot at that glory, that starting job, boy, you better grab onto it like a Rottweiler, in a chain in the backyard. You better latch onto that thing. And I think he's taken that mentality, and I think that team needed it. I've liked this team's got controlled edge to them. You see, Lawson's a little chippy. Burton is probably more than a little chippy, but I think players feed off that. I know I'm an emotional guy, and I would have fed off that kind of energy. So I see some guys being emotional. And again, I tell you, we keep harping on this, but this team doesn't really get down on itself. The first half, you didn't see head hanging. You didn't see a lot of complaining. You didn't see a lot of griping. You saw players grabbing Milrow, slapped him in the helmet, talking to him coming off the field on the deflected interception. So this team seems to really be connected and bonded together.
It doesn't seem like they're glory hungry, I guess is what you're saying too,
Yeah.
because it seems like every week it can be someone else on offense or defense. One week it can be Roydell Williams, maybe at running back, maybe some Jam Miller thrown in there. But Jace, boy, on Saturday, that's a workhorse performance. I'm guessing Alabama doesn't want to get him up into the high 20s. They'd like to share that load more, but when you start the second half with a 29-yard run like he did, it's hard to go away from that guy. And so
Yeah.
Jason really built for 30 carries. He isn't Derrick Henry physically, but give that guy a lot of credit too for the effort and the pounding he took in a lot of ways.
I've been super impressed with him. I've been in that same camp as other people that want to see Roy Dell more and Jam Miller more, and those. Justice more as well. I was in that camp early on, but I just don't know how you don't feed this guy the rock. Let him tote the mail. He runs hard. He's really working hard. If you watch him, on pass protection, and not only just pass protection, he's in there, shoving people like aggressively, protecting. So he obviously bought into that. He worked, and again, the way he runs, like even on his 4-yard runs, he can be it. You're not really grabbing an ankle with him, and that's important to fall forward, get behind your pads, move those chains. You got to have all those little things when you're doing the Al Pacino speech of any given Sunday where every inch matters. So I think Jace fights for every inch.
He does, and he can do it a couple different ways. I mean, he is capable of getting it done between the tackles. I think some diversity in the scheme too has been beneficial to him and the other backs because they're not just sort of 1 or 2 play dependent in the run game right now. They're mixing in some pullers. That's where Jaden Roberts has shown up to me
Yeah.
too, coming from that right guard position. They'll pull a tight end with him or they'll pull a tackle and some gap scheme stuff. I think we're going to talk maybe a little bit more about that in the mailbag, which is a bulging mailbag this time around. We'll get to that in a little bit, but
It is a doozy.
yes, it is. It's a show in and of itself. It's a meal on its own, but we got plenty of time for that coming up. Just wanted to get some extended thoughts on Alabama, Tennessee. I know we're not going to talk a lot of hoops before we get into the mailbag, but we know Alabama they call these things secret scrimmages. What's so damn secret about them? I mean, we get the box score, we get everything. I know the NCAA has a limitation on sort of public scrimmages or exhibition games or things like that, but it's pretty laughable that we get teams like Alabama and TCU together. We have them play in Birmingham. We don't let people in. We don't have any type of feed or broadcast from the game, but we're kind of left to our own conclusions. But Alabama taking on TCU. Yeah.
Sam Walter's throwing up 29.
That's what I'm saying. I want to see that. I want to see him make 7 threes, Tim.
The biggest thing, I think we all really wanted to see the transfers, but didn't you want to see Grant Nelson?
Oh, I want to see Grant Nelson and Aaron Estrada.
Yeah, that game would have been unbelievable to watch, especially just in a loose scrimmage and just playing and all that kind of stuff. I don't know why it's secret.
Yeah, I mean, if they're playing like a D2 or something, okay, that's fine. We probably shouldn't see that.
Well, I just believe if it's a secret, don't tell me about it.
This is Jamie Dixon and Nate Oates,
Yeah, this is 2 turning teams playing. So, yeah, we'll be getting a view of them close enough. That built a lot of excitement, though, I think.
Yeah, Aaron Estrada with 19.
I've never seen, and I know you haven't, I've never seen the Alabama basketball this much excitement.
How much excitement would there have been if the second half of Alabama Tennessee would have been like the first half? We might be in full hoops mode just about. I mean, kidding, of course, but
you're you're right.
Those 30 minutes were big in terms of really pushing us over the edge to hoops.
Now the Hoops fans, they're dedicated now. They're dedicated, so
they should be.
And the minute football ends, people flip over to basketball.
Yeah,
to tell us what Nate's doing wrong.
Exactly.
Now elbow him in the mouth right there.
We love it though. I know we both do.
Absolutely.
Man. Because you're able to transition from a sport like Alabama football that's going to once again go into the month of November with pretty much all of its goals in front of it.
Yeah.
Not a lot of teams can say that at this point in the season. There is a lot of roadside fodder as you get into late October, but Alabama football in the mix, and then you go right into an Alabama basketball program's won a couple of SEC tournaments in the last 3 or 4 years.
Speaking of chippy, Mr. Coach Nate Oates, he's a little chippy, isn't he?
Oh.
Where did they pick us?
He should want the media to pick him 5th every year.
He absolutely said.
Pick us 5th is what I would say.
You guys suck at your job or something, laughing. So, a lot of energy coming from there.
Well, the coach from South Carolina, did you hear what he said? He pointed out to the media, which, that's us, but I can take it. But I mean, if you're right, you're right. And he said all 14 teams a year ago that were picked in a certain spot, none of those teams finished in the spot in which they were picked. So, that tells you a lot.
South Carolina basketball coach said that, or?
Yeah, basketball. Yeah. He
Google
sounds like a guy whose team might have got picked last or really close to it, right? That's what you got to try to sell.
Well, I mean, it's predicting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of these ADs miss their predictions when they hire a coach who they thought was going to be good, but we don't. It's hard. Sports are hard, right?
It is.
Dude, how
And
about
and
college
it,
football? Like, like
and a lot of guys, a lot of folks, guys and gals that cover the league, the portal is so crazy, you don't really know what teams look like, even
yeah,
at this point of the season.
yeah,
I know I don't. I'm seeing Jameer Nelson Jr. is at TCU based on the write up that we've got
yeah.
at BamaOnline.com from the scrimmage yesterday.
You can't keep up. You can't keep up with the portal. I mean, there's so much happening. There's so you keep up with the big names. When a big guy, especially with your own program, like Quinterly, when he bounces from Memphis, it. But most of these other guys, I even mentioned the big kid from Michigan. I missed the big kid from Michigan going to
Going to
Kansas. I
Kansas.
think
Yeah.
maybe I knew it at one point.
Yeah.
All I do know is when it comes to college football, I keep saying this on the roundtable. Everything's on the table. Everything's on the table. Virginia had, I mean, I don't even know the percentages of Virginia beating North Carolina and North Carolina, but they were small. Oklahoma's holding off Central Florida, who's a pretty good team. And you've got,
Clemson blows a 10-point lead at Miami. Did you see that?
oh,
Loses in overtime.
dude, there's nothing. Shane Beamer and
Brutal.
Gabo, after a game, they are entertaining. Those
They
guys
uh
are,
they let it all hang out, those two guys. Yeah.
Beamer like broke his foot last week, and the
Yeah,
whole
he
way
kicked the
he
Gatorade
talked
cooler.
about it, he was like proud of it. And then it
Yeah.
went from I broke my foot to I broke a bone in my foot. And I'm like, well, I know there's a difference there. One's a walking boot, one's a cast, but there's a difference. So I just thought it was I don't know. This week they were interviewing Beamer, and you could hear the construction in the background.
Yeah. Yeah. That's rebuild mode right now once again
Yes.
for Carolina. You know what else happened? Our guy Dan Enos on the move again, Tim.
Where is Dan? I didn't
The
see that coming
Razorbacks,
though.
the Razorbacks fall 7-3 at home to Mississippi State, and less than probably 24 hours later, Arkansas announces it has parted ways with Dan Enos.
I think he
A couple
texted
of years
like
for Dan.
I think he started packing midway through the third. You know what I mean?
I think Dan, though, when you probably consider the buyout money he's picked up in the last few years, although a lot of these jobs he, I think, left on his own volition. Like he left
Yeah,
Alabama, so he may have had to pay a buyout to go to Miami. Who knows how
yeah.
that math works
Yeah,
anymore?
he's a
We,
traveling man. I'm sure he'll pop right back up somewhere.
we got the coaches portal to go along with the transfer portal in college athletics. Hey, Tim, you ready to get into this? Again, it's a sizable roundtable mailbag. We probably
Yeah,
need to go ahead and do that. You ready?
I will go for it.
Let's do it. Goes to Bryant here. Odd question, but I'm interested in how much teams improve as the season goes on. Most of us believe Alabama is a lot better now than at the start of the season. How badly would this Alabama team beat the one from game one? If Alabama through 8 games played Alabama in game one, Tim, what do you think the deficit would be, or do you think there would be? Because yeah, I think the Alabama team in the third and fourth quarters was a lot better than the Alabama team in the first 2 quarters at Tennessee. But I still don't know if there's been that sort of gradual improvement, that ramp up that a lot of us expected for this team throughout the season.
Yeah, I don't think there'd be a big difference. I think what they're better at is small things like cleaning up the penalties, like not having as many penalties. They've had 6 the last 2 games, much improved. Now, a lot of that's going to go hand in hand with the situation, whether they're on the road, whether they're at
Mhm.
home. I mean, you go to Texas A&M in that environment, you're definitely going to get a couple false starts, right? You're definitely going to, you're trying to beat out that crowd. Same thing that happened last year in Knoxville. You're going to get, there's a certain amount of penalties that come with that. But I think they've cleaned it up better. I think they still tackle better. I think the defense is fundamental. I think there's teams more experienced. I think the depth is better now than in game one. So over 4 quarters, I think this team definitely beats the first one. I think the running game's better. And I think Jalen's playing smarter. So I think this team wins, but I don't think overall there's a whole lot of difference in this team other that they've proven over and over and over they can make plays to win games when they need to.
Yeah, again, it's a team that even against Tennessee was pretty random in nature. Offense once again doesn't get off to a fast start. Tennessee, the last 3 games in that series, has sprinted out to early leads and did that once again in Tuscaloosa. You kind of touched on it too. Where is the game played between that Alabama team and this Alabama
Yeah,
team? Which team is the
that'd
road
be
team?
huge. Yeah,
Because as you pointed to, the penalty issues that this team is still capable of, especially in games away from Bryant Denny Stadium, that might be the biggest difference in all of it. Hey,
yeah.
we've got Lefty 20 here in the mailbag. Info, rumors, guesses at the absences of Tony Mitchell and Bray Hubbard the last 2 weeks. Now, Charlie Potter checked in here in the thread, our senior team reporter, a little bit later. Boy, Tuscaloosa hammered us, didn't he? With some
That's my
questions.
boy. He
That's your,
loves.
that's
He
your
can't
guy.
put him. He don't put him in
No,
one.
no, no, no. And we
He wants to spread it. He wants us to mention his name 10 times.
Well, we like the thread build too. That's nice, Tuscaloosa. Charlie
It's
chimed in and said, I can answer half of that. Hubbard has covered kicks the last 2 weeks, so he's out there. As for Tony Mitchell, Charlie said he's not exactly sure what's going on there as of yet. Yeah, I was at first when I saw the question, I was a little bit thrown off because I noticed Hubbard out there as well on certainly kickoff coverage. But for Tony Mitchell, as Charlie said, we're going to work on finding out more about that. Unless Tim, you have something to throw in
do
there, we
not
could
know
just
the answer. I'm not
we just
guessing
go.
where Tony is.
No, we're gonna go with Charlie on that
Yes,
one.
we do.
Hey,
We'll see if we can find out though.
here's one for Tim, man. This is a hanging slider. This is a cement mixer. We talked
Hammer
about
it.
these.
Hammer it.
Yes, I mean this is BP fastball delight for Tim
My dad's
Watts.
pitching to me at the home run derby.
Yes,
Is that
underhand.
okay?
Yeah,
Yeah,
underhand.
I can
Yeah,
hit that one then.
flat underhand. B_Rich, favorite horror Halloween film.
I
What
saw that
about that,
question.
Tim? Your favorite?
We just like rolled through. I
We
mean, we're
did.
going through now. The family. We don't. It's hard to like. Obviously, I love the first Halloween, and then the remake that was called Halloween later on. I love Jamie Lee Curtis in that role. I think she's fantastic. So those are always close to my heart. But right now, we're watching just horror movies, basically. Not a lot of them are actually set at Halloween, but we consider it Halloween because it's scary. Like, um, definitely one that's a recent favorite is a movie called Barbarian on HBO Max or on Max. It's great. And that guy Justin Long, I don't know if you remember that guy, that kind of goofy guy from Dodgeball, the nerdy guy cheerleader in Dodgeball.
Yes.
He is in a lot of scary shows. I don't know why, but he's in a lot of them. But he's in a Barbarian. I love Barbarian, and also we're watching the Fall of the House of Rusher on Netflix right now, which is amazing. The Haunting of a Hill House is amazing on Netflix. So we have a very long list. Good question. We have a very long list here that we alternate with.
Yeah, I asked a question a couple weeks ago if Beetlejuice counts as a Halloween movie. I think it does.
Yeah, I
So
think it counts. I mean, half
I
the
think you
people.
can count it. I might also go with My Mind's Playing Tricks on Me, the
Yeah,
video by Ghetto Boys. That
that's
That's a Halloween film, I think
it's a
technically.
yeah.
Bushwick Bill,
The
you
lyrics
know,
in that are yeah, they're strong.
they were very
They're
strong
deep
back in
and
the day.
disturbed. They're deeply disturbed. But the thing about it is the beat and the music and the way, the tone of how they rap was so good.
So
It was like
distinct, so
it's
distinct.
almost like hypnotic. They kind of like you kind of, I often drift when I drive. You just sort of drift into it with them. So
Well, and you know how you would hear, you know, acts and performers, and you'd say, "Yeah, that's East Coast, right?" Or "That's
yeah,
West Coast." When I heard Ghetto Boys, I said,
yeah.
"That's H Town. That's Houston, Texas,
They're
Fifth
they're
Ward."
they definitely had some moments. One of my favorites when I was
Yeah,
younger. Still love
yeah.
some of it.
Um, what we've got also here from B_Rich, he's asking about fall softball. I can tell you this: just wrapped up the fall softball games, or the practice session with some exhibition games, scrimmages against some junior colleges. And B_Rich, it sounds like it's going to be that core group that's coming back that you're going to be expecting a lot from. Kristen White, Bailey Dowling, Lauren Essman is maybe a two-way player. Emma Broadfoot, the UNA transfer from a year ago, can she take another step? Um, and then pitching wise, Kayla Beaver coming in from Central Arkansas, Jayla Torrance, Kaylee Hevlin. When we talk about positional players again, Jocelyn Brisky, a freshman from Arizona, has been in that mix in the fall. You got Alex Salter. So you got a number of arms in the circle, but obviously Montana Fouts. You You don't come across those kind of pitchers very often. But I'm really interested to see if Kenley Cahalan takes that next big step. Early enrollee last year, playing the shortstop position. She's got all the earmarks of a future superstar. So, yeah, Murph's got some questions, but again, between that veteran core that includes Jenna Johnson, Aaliyah Johnson comes in as a transfer pitcher from LSU. There's going to be some question marks for this team going into the season in a very, very tough league. Let's keep it moving here, Tim. Crimson Labor in the roundtable mailbag. He asked the question, or she does, what player do you think is going to break out over the last 4 games that has been quiet so far? We talked about depth a minute ago, Tim. So I don't know if there's one particular player on that front that would surprise me. Maybe you.
Yeah, I think Jihad was a candidate. I still think James Smith is a guy that can get, as we come down the stretch, can work himself in because his flashes have been really nice, right? James is showing kind of why he had that 5 star. And I'm still looking for a little more Kobe. We call that my guy to click against Arkansas. Burton's just drawing a lot of attention, at least a third major receiver. I mean, Bonds is who we were hoping he was. He's a track star that turned into a football player. Speed. He's wide open by 20 yards for a reason because he's that quick. He's that slippery. Burton's just going to be that kind of Mechie type, I think, glue guy. Make some great catch. That catch he made across the middle where he got smashed. He had to reach behind his body. Just unbelievable effort on that play. And he made a tough catch in the end zone for a touchdown as well. So you got those two guys stepping up pretty good. Amari's seen a lot of carries. I still think touches are attempts. I still think you need one more guy maybe to, as you go deeper, to attack people. I mean, people are going to scheme for them, obviously, and it's tough to scheme. So I'm hoping maybe Kobe gets a shot at that.
Yeah, it seems like Kobe and Isaiah Bond are just alternating games, on
Yeah.
big plays. Isaiah against A&M, Prentice against Arkansas, Isaiah again against Tennessee. So it's Kobe up next
Yeah.
for LSU.
Kendrick's another one that's got that kind of the
He
potential. I mean,
does.
it was one not play, but I mean, looks like he does look like Debo Samuels. I don't know any
And he's
any other way
physical
to
too,
say it.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's not a
he's a
step out of bounds guy,
no,
you know.
he's a hoss. He's inflicting as much pain as he'll ever take.
Crimson Labor, if I were to pick one, I'd probably go to a position where you expect some attrition in terms of health status. So I'll go to the running back position. I'll say it'll be a guy like Jam Miller and or Justice Haynes that if history proves to be accurate, and you certainly don't want this for guys like Jace McClellan and Roydell Williams, their services could be required, if not incorporated to go along with those other two guys. I'll go with one of those running backs as a breakout guy down the stretch. Chaz Fleener here in the mailbag. What's the chances Alabama replaces Kool-Aid McKinstry on punt returns? That last one against Tennessee last Saturday, Tim, as the camera shifted to Nick
Yeah.
Saban, the frustration evident there on the head coach's face after Kool-Aid led a punt that he looked like he was in great shape to catch,
He was
bounce, and then
under it.
roll dead inside the 3.
Yeah. I mean, Kool-Aid's a terrific football player. Obviously having, major problems just fielding the ball. We're not talking about returning. We're talking about catching it. I can't imagine maybe somebody with enough free time could go back and look at how many yards that's cost Alabama by not fair catching these balls. I mean, some of these things are rolling 25 yards. So if he's uncomfortable back there for whatever reason it may be, you've got to have another guy on that team that can field a punt. You've
Yeah,
got
you
it.
you
You've got
do.
not just a fair catch it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I talked about it on second watch too, maybe even instant analysis after the game. Punters today are harder than ever to field punts against because these Aussies and these end over end rugby punts, Australian rules punts that
Spinning.
these
Yeah,
returners get now
spinning.
used to be right. You'd have a punter and he would traditionally punt the ball down the field, a spiral. The toughest thing you might have to field is the punt that tail drag, the spiral that didn't turn over. And you'd have to really run up and get under
Right.
those because they would come down quick. But now you got, Tennessee's punter punts with both feet, you know? So
Show.
it's not as easy as it used to be. But I think you touched on it. If it's a confidence issue, and that last one looked to be that, which you don't expect from Kool-Aid because the way his mental approach is to corner, it's anything but that.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
I just think he's almost got like a version of the yips. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like he's
almost
just
like
not.
Seth McLaughlin earlier in the season with snaps. I
Yeah.
mean, it seems to snowball, I guess. But
Yeah, and I think once you get in your head, you know what I mean? I think that's a problem. But they got maybe a game off, get somebody else in there. I mean, Kool-Aid's a fantastic football player. He's going to be a first round pick. There's a lot of things that could be going through his mind. He took a pretty good lick against Texas. So there's no
yeah,
telling what. But I mean, his value is at cornerback. That's
yeah,
where his value is. His
he's not
value
going to
is
return
at
punts
cornerback.
in the NFL. No.
Yeah, and even here, he's not going to get many to return. I mean, they're
Yeah,
definitely kicking away from him. So it also might be a fact that they actually kick a little bit more to somebody else. They know Kool-Aid's dangerous.
yeah.
You know what I
You'd
mean?
rather
So
you'd rather punt it 35 yards and short and out of bounds with no return than launch a rocket 65 and now he runs it back 78, or something
yeah,
like
so I
that.
think they've
Which
got 2 weeks. That's something the off season they expect them to use. I mean, if you're not comfortable, you're just not comfortable. You know,
here's your man Tuscaloosa in the mailbag.
that's my man.
That's your man. Why does our offense continue to struggle to get things going at the beginning of games, Tim?
We said that, but they were off to a fast start at Arkansas. So it's like I do know what he's saying though, because in other games it's been a slow start. But to me, this team is just I don't know which half you prefer, but it's a a tale of two cities. It's the best of times, it's the worst of times. So luckily the best is better than the worst is worse. So you can write that down and
Yeah,
in
I
your
didn't
corner.
have Tim Watts invoking Dickens on T Watts and
That's
TR,
funny.
but
That's the length of the book I read. No, actually, I read all of Dickens, but I still think it's the greatest opening ever. It's the best of times. It was the worst of times.
you know what I would like Tuscaloosa? I'd like the offense not to wait until the second quarter or later to offer up some of the things we saw even against Tennessee. Give Kendrick Law a jet sweep early.
Yes.
We
What was
saw
that little?
offenses, Tua Tonga Vailoa quarterbacked offenses that went jet sweep early. And you think they had to with Tua? No, but they still did it. And also, I think part of it too is when you don't really incorporate tempo or going faster on offense, that can be problematic. But as much as anything, Tim, the easy touches that it took a little while to get to against
The
Tennessee,
play I
move those
love.
up on that play sheet, Tommy. Move them
The
on up.
play that I loved in this game, I think perhaps the most. You see Bonds lined up in the backfield.
Yes, and they
Put him
bring
in
him
motion.
across.
That is basically just a handoff to Bonds, though. And
Exactly.
that is put now it went. I don't know how far it went. It got a first down, I believe, but that's the kind of play and the one with Kendrick that you can look up and they busted that thing for 67 yards.
Yeah.
So make it easy. I don't think you have to always come out and
They
line up behind tackle and go off tackle and try to get you three and establish the run. I think you can hit a pass or two and establish the run. You don't have to establish it first. You gotta establish it.
I thought they did a nice job, Tommy Reese and that offense, as the game moved on, really taking advantage of some hyperactive linebackers for Tennessee
Oh
because
yeah,
they were
they did.
all over
Exposed
any
them.
type of run action to the
Yeah,
back.
they exposed them. Yeah,
They
they
were two or
exposed
three, four guys,
them.
and they were able to work off of that later in the game. And defenses have been doing that week in and week out. So get going early, I would say, with more of that stuff.
I agree.
Tuscaloosa also asking, why does Josh Heupel look like the hotel shuttle van driver that yells at traffic and complains about his ex-wife on your way to the airport?
He's always got one. We just can't answer.
Oh, Tuscaloosa. Josh wasn't happy with that officiating post game, Tim. Not sure if you saw that. He basically took a moment of silence after he was asked about the officiating.
Yeah, it reminds me of that movie Liar Liar with Jim Carrey, where the girl came in with spiked blue hair and he said, "What do you think of my hair?" He said, "Whatever it does that takes a look off your face, distract them." Well, that's what I think that was. That was a distraction. I mean, nobody's even talking about the 4th and 1 from his own 34-yard line. And had Alabama scored there, because Alabama just scored to make it 13-7. He goes for it, Alabama stops, and of course it resulted in interception. But if Alabama scores there, they're ripping him apart. That's funny how that feedback, and I discussed this on the roundtable. The effect, what happens after the 4th and 1
Right.
is what you remember. If you don't get it and they don't score, you don't even talk about it as a bad play. That was not a great play call. It was not a great decision.
Yeah, I thought there were some calls that could have gone Alabama's way too that
Well, I
didn't.
mean, I just after
You
last
know,
year, I
if
don't.
we
You
if
know what?
and
After last year, I don't want to hear that crap. Here's a
well,
fact:
yeah,
they can
there's
cry. Their
receipts for
media leaks
Alabama
the way
fans.
they can cry. They can. They can. I will put them on my shoulder and burp them. They can cry all they want, but the officiating affected this game 1/50th of what it did last year. So I don't want to hear this.
Yeah, I mean, you get shut out 27-0 in a
You were
half.
shut out.
Yeah, there's
Zip.
you
Y'all
know.
scored the same number of points that me and Travis did in the second half. We might have had more yards.
Mm.
So that officiating wasn't that.
I
I
mean,
was
even a
just
even a Rick Barnes coached basketball team scores more than
I was
27 points
surprised
in a
that
half.
I know how the fans are, and I get the fans' emotions. I saw it last year. But after the Alabama game last year, I took some heat because I refused to blame the officials. You remember that? I said, "Hey,
Yeah, we
Alabama had
tried to steer clear of that because the fans they
because we're
took care of that.
professional. First of all,
Yeah.
we're professional. We're adults, and Alabama had every chance to win that game last year. But Baron, the officiating certainly had more of an effect on last year's game because if there wasn't officiating, that goalpost wouldn't be in the river.
Well, and what we see a lot of times with these complaints is the super slow-mo or the still shots. Well, in real time, a lot of these things are happening so quickly, they're not going to get called. And
Yeah.
unless you want a sport where everything's reviewable, every play is reviewable, Tim. We
And
can
every
review
play's a
holding,
penalty.
we can review personal fouls. If you want to stop every play and review every play and have about 30 penalties on each team by the end of the game, and it takes us 7.5 to 8 hours to complete 4 quarters, well, that's the game you're going to be left with.
Tennessee averages 8 penalties a game, and they had 8 penalties
Yeah.
for 55 yards. These aren't 15-yard late hits and all this stuff like that. They had 8 penalties for 55 yards. That's not massively penalized. I saw a Tennessee player, and I know the refs and everybody saw it, punch Roydell in the head.
Yeah.
And the fancy's going for the ball. No, is the ball in his helmet? Is the ball in his helmet? I mean,
Well,
that's
and
the
that's
dumbest
a
thing I've
call
ever
too.
heard.
That one, as I've said, and I know people get tired of hearing it, it really depends on which sideline you're on when you do that. I
Yeah,
mean,
but
it
I'm
happened
saying that
over on the
shouldn't
Tennessee
happen.
sideline. I can
Right.
promise you, if that same thing had happened at Nick Saban's feet, there's a 15-yard penalty, easy,
Officiating's hard.
right there.
I
But
would
they get
never do it.
influenced. They get
I don't care
influenced.
what they make. I would never do it. But I don't believe that game. I just don't think the Tennessee
No, I
were going
didn't.
to
You know,
let
it kind of surprised me because of the dominance in the second half. I didn't really expect, even from Tennessee fans, that sort of blowback.
I was
You know,
shocked
I
at
was
the end.
like,
But when I went back and looked, they got their PA announcer and other people. I've been watching this my whole life. Come on, man.
well, you got
Come
to
on, man.
understand the pain, right? Because Tennessee was so dominant in the first half. You know, a lot of Tennessee people were already putting that two straight. You
The
know, they
streak,
were
hey,
already, yes, they were
the
already getting
streak
it
is
ready.
over.
Yeah,
The
we've
streak
got the
is
streak now.
over.
And then to have
So
that come just
I was
crashing down in the second half.
I was surprised at after the game. And I know, again, I'm not blaming fans. Fans are fans. Bama fans do the same thing, and every fan base does the same thing. Saints, Pelicans. I'm watching the Pelican game, screaming about the officials. They're terrible, though. They do favor the Lakers, but that's beside the point. I was just surprised when I realized the media and Heupel was playing all up on it. You know what I mean? You got shut out, Coach Heupel. They should be asking you what caused you to
Why
get
couldn't you
completely
sustain
shut
the
out.
offense in the second half? Yeah.
It almost felt like a staged question. You know what I mean? For him to
Yeah.
take the 10 seconds of silence, that almost was like planned out.
It was like I just think it's like Dwight Yoakam in Sling Blade. I'm hurting, Linda. I'm hurting real bad. That's our
Well,
guy.
that wasn't a last second field goal at the Horn game.
They're hurting. I mean, I get it. I understand that.
I was just surprised
You're
that
thinking the game's over at the half, and then you lose by 14. I mean,
if they're
that's
not careful, they're going to
they're
be
going to
griping
carry
about
it
the
over to
officials in the
Kentucky.
Kentucky game. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and
They
they can
got us
Tennessee
again,
can lose that
Daddy.
game. Yeah.
Yeah, you better watch it. Kentucky's had this one circled since that Georgia loss, baby.
Yeah, Kentucky needs some juice. Tuscaloosa again. What coaching changes do you see happening at the end of this season around around the country, Tim. What about Lincoln Riley? Let's
He's
start way
gone.
out west.
He gone, right?
Going to the NFL with Caleb.
He gone, right?
Another loss for the Trojans late Saturday night.
It was
Kyle
bad.
Whittingham, man. Nobody talks about that guy at Utah, but just keeps beating USC.
He looks like he should be in every wilderness reality show.
He could have been in some diehards
He
with
just
that
is
hair
like
he's got going right now.
he's got a
Yeah.
glorious head of hair. He looks just like
He could have been on Team Villain in some of
he
those
does. He could
diehards.
be expendables. He could be
Yeah.
an expendable bad guy, slick his hair back.
Yeah.
But yeah,
He can
coaching's
coach, dude.
fantastic. Doing that with the backup quarterback. Um, Gave the lead away late, came flying back, kicked a field goal to win it. But I would think Lincoln Riley's gone, right?
Lincoln Riley. And then what about just within the SEC? Sam Pittman, obviously catching a
Yeah.
lot of heat right now.
That sucks too, because what a great story. First of all, Sam Pittman was like their 7th or 8th choice. I don't know the exact details. I know it was down the line. He came out, he had some success. I've never heard a bad word about the guy. Like, never. Like, people love him. Recruits love him. Other coaches love him. Everybody loves him. So what a great story. But it just kind of like has fizzled really, really quickly. And to be honest, I felt, again, I know that was an ugly game, but they've been basically in every game they played.
They have.
I think every loss is a one,
touchdown or less. Yeah.
What I would say is this, though. You've kind of wasted KJ Jefferson's talented he is. Who are you going to get if you lose Pittman? You know what I mean? Because he's.
Could you get Dan Mullen to come to Fayetteville? Tim?
I got a better question. Would you want him in Fayetteville?
Well, that is another question.
I've got a couple of cities in the Southeastern Conference.
He doesn't really like to recruit, and it's tough to recruit to Arkansas. And I understand, but for the Arkansas people, I understand all about the chicken money and the Walton money and all that. And I've been there, and the resources and facilities are top notch. But geographically, that's tough, Tim. You're the recruiting guy. It's already tough, and you got Texas and Oklahoma coming in.
We used to go AAU tournaments out there. It's a it's a ride. Yeah, it's a ride. It's a good city once you get there. It's good people, and it's fun.
It's a geographical oddity. This place is 12 hours from anywhere.
It's yeah. It felt a little bit like going to Hawaii. I'm not gonna lie. I had 3 connecting flights.
I love Northwest Arkansas. Beautiful, but when you go there, you're like, wait, I'm in the SEC in Fayetteville. It just doesn't have sort of that vibe to it.
So I think Pittman. I can't think of many others right off the top of my head.
Is Shane Beamer in trouble?
I don't think so, but he probably should be.
If he can beat Clemson again and make that 2 straight, and he gets them.
Was Dabo in trouble?
Dabo, not if you ask Dabo. Everybody else is in trouble. Dabo said the bandwagoners can get off and lighten the load a little bit. And then he goes to Miami and blows a 10-point lead, loses in overtime.
He said that, and he heard ding, ding, ding. This is my stop, coach. Ding, ding, ding. Let me out, baby.
Oh, man. And that right there, right, underscores as much as anything how crazy what Nick Saban has done in Tuscaloosa. Because, Dabo had that thing rolling in the ACC. It should have been ready-made every year. Just punch the clock, and it has been anything but that.
And now you got FSU, who's not going away. Mike Norvell's not going away. Mario's certainly going to be in the game just from a talent standpoint. I couldn't get over the fact he said the quarterback, it was a straight.
It was supposed to be a give, and Klubnik kept it on his own. He went rogue and just got dropped for about a 4-yard loss.
That's what Garantano did, right? For Dick's 117
that's
yards.
When Jeremy lost it. Yeah.
That hole, again, the hole was 3 yards open. And my dude with no vertical, it's like me trying to dunk. That's not the best idea. He goes up top, and then a track star picks it up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't see how the guy just decided that's got to be a play, right?
Oh, it was a play, but he did.
He
kept it. It wasn't a zone read. He wasn't reading anything.
Well, that DB came up and ate it up.
Yeah,
he was looking for it.
I don't know what you're. Obviously, you want to try to help your team, but that just reeked of hero ball. Also, thoughts on the all-out blitz from Alabama down at the goal line that resulted in a UT touchdown. Tuscaloosa says he actually liked the call, given what we know about Milton, who has basically been an arm punt QB. What we had seen really even before that, Tennessee loves those tight ends down in the red zone. So that concept was similar to the one that they had tried to get Warren the ball in the corner and Milton just overthrew it, which goes back to Tuscaloosa's point that
Yep.
even if you even if you're not tight in coverage, there's a chance Milton doesn't get the throw home. Well, he did on that one to Castles that Tuscaloosa is referring to. It's just good play against a pressure call, and I didn't mind it either. So I don't know, Tim. You got any thoughts on that one?
Nah, I agree. I think the thing about Milton, the defense, they were playing well. I mean, even the first touchdown pass to Squirrel White, we had a lot of questions on the message board why Alabama didn't take him. He was from Clay Chalkville, but go look at that 22 signing class. Burton was in it, Emmanuel Sanders, Shaz, Kendrick Law, Kobe, Isaiah Bond, and
Yeah.
Aaron Anderson. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons. But that play, I don't know. Braswell was in good position on the
I mean, to
play.
be a 250-pound
I mean,
edge,
are you kidding me? And then
and
the throw
and
was excellent,
I
and the
still don't
catch.
know. I still don't know what Jalen Key's responsibility was on that play. Maybe he was where he was supposed to be. I'm thinking
Yeah,
though, with the field spread like that, he was
basically
supposed to
rolled
have
over.
some type of
Yeah.
responsibility. But I'm with you, man.
With all that said, it was a perfect pass and even better
A
catch. I mean, it was.
fingernail catch.
That's what I'm saying. It wasn't like that was terrible. You know what
No.
I mean? It was not. And I saw the early reaction was, why is Braswell in coverage? Well, the coverage wasn't the problem
Yeah.
as far as Braswell was concerned. Now, somebody's supposed to be rolled over the top,
Yeah.
all that stuff. And that's just where you tip your hat. Kind of feel like that on the play Tuscaloosa's talking about. Kind of tip your hat to a nice play under pressure.
Also, Milrow has really struggled hitting his spots on intermediate routes the last couple of weeks, mostly missing high. Have
Yeah.
you guys been able to identify what's causing that? I think most quarterbacks, with the very few being the exception, they have a little bit of a hole in their game. There's an area of the field that isn't always very efficient when you look at their numbers. And here's what I like about Milrow, man. Like the throw to Malik Benson in the first half, that deep crossing route. He can drive that ball in there.
Yeah.
He hit Jermaine with a big one behind a mesh route later in the game. He likes that 15 to 18-yard range on those routes. He can obviously throw the deep ball. But yeah, the last couple games especially, we've seen some inaccurate throws there more in
What if
the
it's
10 to
just in his
15
head?
range.
I mean,
Yeah.
the two passes picked off against Texas were basically the ones we're now seeing him overthrow, right?
Yeah.
So now if he's putting that high and outside, I think maybe that's it, making sure that nobody can catch it but the Alabama guy. Of course, some of those he's had a couple where Burton he had a couple of passes where Burton was just like, screw it, just the minute he left his feet, he didn't even put his arms up. So I think it's better safe than sorry there. But I agree, he struggles with some of those passes. But I do think that's probably in his head a little bit with the mistakes on the outside. And they're so costly. You know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
it's you get that thing picked off out there. I saw it in the NFL, saw it in college outside of Alabama. You get that thing picked off out there, you're in big trouble. Arizona State did. It might have cost them a game against Washington.
Yeah, foot long asking, why does Alabama continue to have center to quarterback snap issues? Is McLaughlin hearing hut and it's supposed to be on the hut? There's a couple different ways that Alabama goes about it. I think it's mostly claps though. It's the hands, and you even saw Tennessee flagged for disconcerting signals. Do you see that penalty on Tennessee?
Yeah.
Because one of the inside linebackers was pounding his hand in a way that sounded like a clap. So that could be part of it. And look, it's just different too. I mean, Seth McLaughlin, I'm guessing though, Seth, what makes this a little bit of a mystery is Seth probably has worked with Jalen in the previous years because Seth was the number 2 center and Jalen was the backup. So it's hard to imagine that. I will say this, Tim, when Alabama lined up as if it was going to go for it from its own 12 there, I guess, in the fourth quarter, we knew they weren't actually going to go for it. But I was scared to death about the ball getting snapped
Man,
inadvertently, even though
yeah.
Alabama was obviously trying to draw Tennessee off sides in that scenario.
Yeah. I just don't understand how a few, some of those passes seems to go to Jalen's right. It's just
It
off
is.
to
You're right.
it's off to
And
the
Jalen's
right.
made some nice saves, man, to his
And if
credit.
that throws that offense, that can throw a
Yep.
completely destroy the rhythm
Yep.
of a play. And Jalen he's had to go low a few times. And also when you're a quarterback, again, learning on the job first year and got some, like you said, holes in your game, you don't want a ball skipping in at your ankles. You've had to take your eye off linebackers. You're basically closing your eyes for 3 seconds, then looking up, seeing what you've got, having pre-read the defense. So um, still would like to see that cleaned up. Obviously, that was the two big. If I have complaints, it wasn't even the slow start that I would complain about. I complained about the lack of fair catch and punts and the snaps. A few of the snaps just seem to throw the rhythm off. Um, and I do, I think the two turnovers were big in that first half of that game that kind of set the tone.
Major Wood 482 here in the mailbag. Um, we asked the question in the opening post for the mailbag thread, how do you spend a bye week Saturday? And our guy here, Major Wood 482, says, got to keep the wife happy during the bye week and do all the fall Halloween stuff. So there you go. He also asked, did we see similarities of Sark's offense in the second half against Tennessee? All the eye candy, the motions, both in the run and passing game, it worked. Seemed like simplified things for Milrow too, gave him quicker reads. We also got a little more creative with the run game. We still wasted downs with the typical zone scheme, run up the middle, but also saw more gap stuff. Yeah, we saw more gap stuff even against Arkansas. When you say gap stuff, a lot of times what we're talking about is pulling linemen, tight ends, blocking down to the play side, bringing those backside pullers. We saw some of that again against Tennessee. And also, he says, and for the love of God, sending Benson in motion to lead block when Kendrick Law is built perfectly for that.
I would
Can
agree.
can Alabama also fake the run and hit Law in the flats off the motion and let him run with it, Tim?
Yeah, I have not been impressed with Malik's blocking. Um, and it's nothing that surprises me. I mean, you got a speed guy coming from junior college, right? So there's not
That ain't why you signed him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not surprised that it take a minute to kind of figure that out. And I mean, those SEC DBs. I mean, you see Bama's. You saw Nick Saban breaking down plays. They like Malachi. And those guys jam you at the line. They get on you. You got to be grown man strength to keep those guys from blowing up a play. But I agree. I wouldn't have Malik as a lead blocker. I think he's more a receiver. He's got to improve right there. And I'm all for getting. I think we've discussed that already. I'm all for getting Kendrick the ball and seeing what he can do because it's kind of like a bowling ball. It's kind of like a running back that you
He is.
that you've hit in stride and bigger and thicker than the other wide receivers on the team.
MB Bama asks, can we address the health of the team overall, even guys that have been playing, but y'all are hearing behind the scenes, and you're hearing Teddy ball game behind the scenes right now.
Teddy,
Teddy, yeah, boy,
hey, that man is money.
talk about punting something
Teddy
right now.
KGB.
Teddy
Yes,
ball game making an appearance. Even guys that have been playing, but y'all are hearing behind the scenes that they are dealing with some issues. I'm wondering who is really going to benefit from the off week the most. Well, you start with the most recent. Terry and Arnold apparently
yeah.
entered concussion protocol during the game Saturday. That's got to be good for him to have the off week. Trez Marshall didn't
Trez
play
Marsh.
with the
Yeah,
ribs. Give Jahad Campbell a lot of credit going wire to wire there with Deontay Lawson. So, Tim, for me, those are a couple of guys. But as MB kind of alluded to, man, you play 8 straight,
yeah,
especially in this league, and Texas was one of your non-cons. So that upped the degree of difficulty. The bye week absolutely comes at the right time for LSU too. I mean, you got to say that LSU's also on the bye.
yeah. I think in Alabama, just a chance. I think everybody at this stage is being banged up a little bit. Maybe not Will Riker. He seems to be healthy. He's kicking the crave. I know that field goal felt good for him. Boy, you saw that emotion when
Yeah,
he made that 50. And boy, we made it a lot harder, didn't you? With taking that sack and you go from a 34, 35, 36-yard field goal to a 50. I guess he
it's
appreciates
like
it.
the offense sometimes feels like there needs to be a drum roll before
It's
these Will Reichard field goal attempts, like Evil Knievel jumping the fountains in Vegas. It needs to be so much harder. And when he hit that 50-yarder, it came off his foot. You're thinking, it might be a little
yeah,
bit right again.
that's when you
But he had that
lean,
little draw on it,
start
had that little
leaning.
draw, brought it back in there nicely.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think everybody's got to be banged up. I mean, the defensive line, the offensive line. I mean, just the practices alone will wear you down, and then you get into the season. But Marshall's the one that probably stands out the most to me. I mean, the way Saban described his ribs, bruised ribs
Yeah.
are. I've only had some bruised ribs once, and it was awful. It's getting up, sitting up. It's like straining yourself. So he said he was fine to go until there was contact. So obviously he's going to benefit a lot from it. But I imagine everybody, and also the mentality. First of all, you survived the roughest stretch of the season, and all your goals are intact. And we said that after the Texas loss, you still can win the SEC West. You can still win the SEC. You can still go to the college football playoffs. So they've survived. We say survive in advance, right? Well, they've survived and still got that second half to go and some more football. But I think everybody is going to be a little banged up. I mean, even Burnip had the issue, so he gets to rest, and Jace gets to rest, and it's just a different pace. And also, don't forget the mental rest they're getting.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They're still, I know they're still talking up this week and preparing for LSU. You don't pick that up on Monday before the game, but mentally, you can wear flip flops to school. You're practicing a little less hard. You'll have more time this weekend. So yeah, I think it's a good thing for everybody, including the coaches. Of course,
Yeah.
they won't get
That'll be
any rest.
recruiting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't get a break.
It's Dalton RTR here in the mailbag. It has been a quote tale of two halves, end quote, for the entire season, it seems. Sluggish first halves with miscues, poor execution and penalty. Then explosive second halves coupled with dominant defense. With that in mind, LSU is looming in 2 weeks, and they have by far the best offense in the SEC. Can Alabama continue this trend and still win? Or will it be too much to overcome if Jaden and crew jump us by 2 to 3 scores early? Yeah, I wouldn't advise a continuation of some of these slow starts for the Alabama offense. I'm with you, though, Tim, and a point you made earlier. Statistically, LSU defensively looks to be improving, but then I'm reminded that that improvement came against Auburn and more recently Army.
Right.
And so I'm in the need to really see it to believe it. I'm still going to go into this game, I think, Tim, thinking Alabama's going to score in the 30s. I believe that. Now, will that be enough? Because LSU, I think, regardless of opposition, is capable of getting there too.
Yeah, I think LSU is going to push us more than anybody else. But when you look at their schedule, I mean, Arkansas had 39. Up until that point, looking at their schedule now, they'd given up 31 to Arkansas, 55 to Ole Miss, 39 to Missouri. So they definitely, like you said, the defense got better against Army and Auburn, who've been pretty safe for most of the defenses they've played. They felt comfortable with those games, but they've given up a lot of points. And I think Alabama is a team that's going to score points. I mean, you're not going to. I'm going to be hard pressed to find a team bottled up. I mean, they moved the ball against Texas. Obviously, the 2 turnovers were huge, but yeah, I don't think the coaches come out going, "Hey, let's get down 3 scores, 13-0, 17-0, and then come back for dramatic purposes." It's not Rocky in the first 5 rounds. I think they're trying to scheme. I think, like you said earlier, I think you need to be more aggressive, more creative, less basic, basically.
Yeah, there has to be an urgency offensively against LSU. You
You don't
need
see you
to
don't see many shots early.
no,
You
and
don't.
with Jaden Daniels in that offense, you got to make them earn it because they are so explosive.
Yeah, the wide
And
receivers
you
are
go into the game
fantastic.
understanding that, but make them earn it in the red zone. Make LSU have to score on a condensed field.
This
Don't
could
let
be.
these explosives go for touchdowns.
We kind of felt like Tennessee, Alabama could be the opposite of last year, but I think there could be very similar game with Alabama and LSU this year that there was last year. I think we could be looking at a back and forth to score. And again, that home field advantage is going to be good at home for Alabama to be at home. It's going to be good. That home field advantage again. I mean, that's amazing. You always get on the round table. You always got in the first quarter. You got 3 people saying the crowd's dead, and then you got people posting from there going like it's not dead. Um, And of course, I watch all my games on mute, so I don't hear the announcers for the most part. But that was an amazing crowd, and I think they'll be up for this game as well.
Yeah, and with LSU, I think where it does actually get easier compared to say Tennessee, and as far as how you defend LSU, not as much tempo. So if you want to get more situational with your edge guys or your secondary, you should be able to do that more. I'm sure LSU will incorporate more tempo, perhaps as forward thinking of that, but we'll see. Bama Ducks here in the mailbag. Both Marshall and Campbell have played well at inside linebacker, assuming both are healthy. Who starts versus LSU? Again, I think that could revert back to the situation that Alabama's in. I do think after the way he played against Tennessee, it's going to be difficult to keep Jihad off the field. But I also think LSU more so in the last 3 or 4 weeks has incorporated a legitimate inside running game with the Notre Dame transfer Logan Diggs. So, and he's a load. So you still got to have some thump there on the inside. You got to be able to cover yourself both ways. Both are going to play Tim, I think, against
Yeah,
LSU.
yeah, I agree. I mean, I like Trez Marshall, and I think I've said it several times this year because he pressures it. He doesn't always get home, but he comes like his hair's on fire when he blitzes, when he comes to the quarterback. I mean, it is coming with bad intentions. There's always good pressure from him. But, I mean, if you thought you were impressed with Campbell during the game, go back and rewatch it like I did yesterday. I know you did. A lot of huge plays. I mean, fourth down play, he was huge. Grabbing people in short yard is strong. He's got to be strong because he's grabbing guys and pulling them backwards. He's coming around from that edge on those short yardage plays, and as they're trying to do the whatever push you want to call it, he's pulling them. So, you got the Campbell pull while they're trying to do the tush push. So, very very hard. I agree. Both of them got to play.
We'll wrap it up with Big Bama Boy. He wants us to talk about the way Alabama covers the three wide receiver stack offensive formation. It looks like Bama always has one safety about 10 yards off the guy that he is covering. The consequence is that Alabama seems to give up 5 to 7 yards every time the quarterback throws it out wide. Why is Alabama not aligning DBs closer to shut that play down closer to the line of scrimmage? Are we worried about being beaten deep? Well, if you're talking about Tennessee, there was probably some post traumatic syndrome in play. I mean, you saw the game last year, right? I know you did, Big Bama Boy. You're on top of this stuff. Jalen Hyatt kind of lit up Alabama with the deep ball. So I think that's part of it. I think, too, Alabama plays some brackets and some pattern matching stuff that they do post snap. Some of it zone related, more a lot of it is a shift between zone and man. And I think position on the field has something to do with that too. Where are you at? Are you got them backed up? You out at midfield? You worried about an offense taking shots? Are you playing red zone defense? There's a lot that goes into it, and also the opponent that you're playing. Like I talked about earlier, Tim. The one thing you don't want to do against LSU is get aggressive against 5 to 7 yard routes and then have Malik Neighbors and these other guys running behind you for
Yeah,
touchdowns.
I think the answer is yes. You don't want to get beat deep. I mean,
Right.
Alabama has, even in the Tennessee game, they put up yards, they just didn't put up points. They had a bend but don't break mentality, and Tennessee moved the ball, but they were really good in the red zone, which they have been all year or recently. And so I think you don't want to give up a 67, 70-yard play because that really is deflating. Make them work the whole 70 field, make them work the whole field, and just trust your team to create something and get a stop, which they've been good at doing.
That's going to do it for the roundtable mailbag. I told you it
It's a
was
great,
deep. We
you
rolled
crushed it.
deep,
You
and we
crushed it, mailbag
certainly
guys. Thank you.
appreciate all the contributions from our subscribers
Absolutely.
there at BamaOnline.com. That's going to put a cherry on top of the Sunday that is, Tim Watts. I know we've got NBA and Major League Baseball stuff going on. I know you're all
That
about
next
that.
week.
You're our chief correspondent when it comes to those things.
Yeah, season NBA starts tomorrow. Tomorrow night, the playoffs. The
MLB
Astros and
playoffs,
Rangers are in game seven.
7,
Yeah, game
7.
7. So kind of rooting for the Rangers in a weird way. That I don't know a lot about them. I don't think I barely saw them during the season, but they're obviously competing. That's been a good series. And of course, I'm rooting against the Phillies as a Braves fan.
You going to be rooting for me up in New England later this week?
Yeah, you're going to have fun in Maine. I'm excited about this. We're going to go over
You're the
this.
main man. I mean, you've
We're
been
going to
up
go.
there a
I'm
couple
telling you
times.
this. I've sent people or recommended this trip. I have yet to hear anything but A. And I'm challenging you. A plus. Like I hype it too. Like I overhype it, and it still delivers. So
I can't wait, man.
yeah, it's gonna be fun. I
Should
don't
be
know.
some
I've never.
fall foliage. Now, is there like maple syrup and stuff like that on the roadside that I can buy up in
There's
that area? What am
blueberries,
I?
but you definitely
Yeah.
want to buy. I think you want the low bush too. I had a guy explain to me the difference. Low bush are like the wild one you can't get anywhere, I believe, and
Ooh.
the bigger ones are the ones we get. They're the high bush. So the low bush just grow on their own.
What about lobster rolls?
Lobster roll. You
I'm ready
can't
for
like
some
I went
lobster
okay, the
rolls.
first time we went, we were solely lobster rolls. Wife ate one every day.
I could do it.
You do. She was like
Every
crushing it.
meal,
And
I
we
could
were
do
going
it.
to the best in the state, basically. This last time I went, I decided to try it in every form and fashion. So I was having bisque, which was good, and then a chowder, which was good. So I tried it basically every which way. But for me, the lobster rolls is simply how's the bun cooked. I don't think there's a whole
The
lot of
bread matters, dude.
it. Well, it just
It's
depends.
kind of like a Philly cheese too, that
Like,
way,
do you like it
or a
warm
po'
or
boy.
do you like it warm or do you like it cold? You know, all those little
I
things.
just
I
need
haven't
it
had a bad
soft.
one.
I don't need it to dominate. I want the lobster to star, Tim. I want the lobster to star in the roll.
It's I have
I
not
don't
had a
want too
bad
much
one.
mayonnaise on that roll either. Don't
Something tells me
mayonnaise
if you
me
go
up.
to a gas station and get a lobster roll, you're going to come out of there pretty. I mean, I swear I had gumbo. I mean, you know how many times we've been to New Orleans? I had gumbo at night at a Shell station as a little lady who had this little area to herself, like a small restaurant. It was the best I've ever had there. And we've eaten all over that place. It was amazing. And I guess she just set up shop like a little small restaurant she had. But and I was completely sober. It was just, it was amazing. It was great stuff. I ate it sitting in the car.
What was the I gotta hit the burger joint and Stuck on You with Matt Damon and Greg Kinnear. Remember that flick? Stuck on You, they're the
Oh,
conjoined twins. What
oh
was the
man,
burger joint in that
that was
movie?
I
That
don't
was up
remember.
that way. I gotta
That
hit
is
that.
that is such a weird movie.
Is that in Bar Harbor? We
Yes,
talk
I got
about movies you can't make anymore. I don't
Matt
think you can
Damon and
make that
Greg
one.
Kinnear as Siamese twins. That was
High school football stars. Meryl Streep was at the game.
dude. It
Remember?
was yeah. I still think
I,
you can make those movies. I still think you can
you
make them.
think you can?
I
All
do
right.
because I see every year, every 2 years, I see people defending Blazing Saddles and I see them defending Tropical Thunder. So
Yeah, those are
those are
tough.
well, people come out at them, and then people are like, "No, these are great," and they are great. I mean, they are
Oh
great.
gosh. Yeah.
So
I had
you
to
just
I had
got
to
to.
go with a Stuck on You reference with New
That
England
was
coming up.
yeah, that
Tim
was a
wasn't ready
movie.
for that one.
That
I
was a
don't.
movie. I
All
forgot
right.
about it. But
We'll get out of here on that one, Tim. Is that all right with you?
absolutely. We'll see you guys next week. We see you on the round table and enjoy your bye week.
Absolutely. For Tim Watts, Travis Reier, thanking you once again for joining us right here on the YouTube and podcast homes for BamaOnline.com. Until next time, so long, everybody.